You're listening to the Artist Athlete episode 99. Oh my gosh. This podcast is dedicated to Circus. It's a place for professionals in the industry to share their stories, viewpoints, and information, and a place for outsiders to get a sneak peek into this world. Hey friends, fans, and foes. I'm Shannon McKenna. I'm the host of the Artist Athlete podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. You might be wondering to yourself, how does this podcast exist? How does she manage every week to bring on such brilliant guests to sound so darn good while she's doing it? And where does that cool music at the beginning come from? The answer is I have an amazing editor. Her name's Allison. She has a company called Sound Travels. And I also have an amazing assistant. Her name is Hannah, and she's also a circus artist. And those two people are instrumental to getting this podcast out every week. And the way that they do it is because I pay them. And the way that I pay them is through generous donations from the community, people like you who listen every week. And then they go to patreon.com/theartistathlete and pledge to give as little as $3 a month to help me help the people who help me create this amazing podcast for you to listen to every week. So if you want to support not only me, not only this podcast, but my whole team and everyone who listens to this podcast, go to patreon.com/theartistathlete and sign up to become a Patreon today. Again, patreon.com/theartistathlete. My guest today is Benjamin Domask-Ruh. Benjamin is a circus and theater director, performer, and clown residing in Minnesota and working all around the world. His work has been experienced through the U.S. as a performer and teacher with the International Jugglers Association, touring with the Tiger Lion Arts, commissioned playwright for the Climb Theater, principal juggler with Moth Circus, assistant director with the Children's Theater Company, and a guest instructor with social circuses such as Circus Harmony, Trenton Circus Squad, and Circus Juventus. Internationally, Benjamin tours with longtime modern vaudeville partner and Artist Athlete podcast interviewee, Tom Wall, with their award-winning show, The Dinner and a Show, with circus partner Timito Bond in Mexico, and he performs his solo show, Hodgepodge. Benjamin is a proud teaching artist of St. Paul-based Compass and is professionally managed by Afton Benson. Just a little heads up, this interview was recorded before I got a snazzy new microphone, so I sound a little weird, and I talk a lot in this interview. It kind of goes off the rails. You'll hear it. But just so you know, it's not normal. We've got it all fixed. Allison's amazing and did what she could for this episode, and so thank you for bearing with me. Enjoy the interview. Benjamin sounds amazing. So here's my interview with Benjamin Domask-Ruh. First question, what kind of coffee you drink?
Straight up black.
Damn, hardcore.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hardcore Midwesterner right here.
All right, Benjamin, tell me your story. Who are you? What do you do? Tell people.
Oh, so many things. I don't know. I guess my name is Benjamin. I'm a clown of sorts. I guess like the official spiel is that I'm a clown, juggler, mime. And I guess to put that into more of a broader perspective, I'm a performer and a teacher and a director. And I guess that to even go broader, I'm an artist. And then even broader is I'm just trying to be a human. So here we are.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of. Well, we'll go small and then we'll go broad, maybe.
Awesome.
Can you go even smaller than clown, mime? Oh, what was the third thing you said?
Juggler.
Oh yeah, those.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be a clown mime juggler?
Oh, what does it mean?
Do you do it all at once?
Sometimes.
Okay.
And a few years ago, I sat down and wrote like a very official like statement. So I was in a coffee shop. It was this very avant-garde, like dark, dank coffee shop. People still smoked in there, even though it's
Yes,
illegal.
you were drinking your coffee black.
Yep.
Yes, we got it.
And I was like, well, what am I? Who am I? What am I doing? And I put down clown. I put down juggler. I put down mime. And I was like, what are the part of each of these things that define who I am? And so I came up with that. I do the skill and technique of juggling, which might be synonyms. I don't know. And then under the theory and philosophy of clown, ooh, fancy. And then I try to roll that into the aesthetic of corporeal mime.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We have so much to unpack.
Oh yeah, there you go. What does that even all mean? I always imagine like, what does someone who gets my resume and reads that, like, what do they think? Or do they just like go over it and they're like, whatever.
Yeah, they're probably like, cool. Is he funny? Hired. Okay, but that's not us here on the Artist Athlete podcast. We ask the hard-hitting questions. We investigate.
Boom, pow.
Yeah. Wait, can I have a sound effect for that?
Boom, pow.
Yes. Okay, so what is a clown philosophy? Let's start there.
Yeah, so
I think I understand, and we've had some jugglers on the pod.
Yeah.
We've had the West Peden, we've had the people. So, they covered the juggling a bit.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of when we think of a juggler, we have a specific image, right?
Sure.
But I think that what makes you different is the philosophy and the corporeal mime.
Yeah.
So what is a clown philosophy?
I guess the clown philosophy is like how you approach your performing, how you approach your time on the stage. And so it's so personal. I can't be like, this is what it is. But I know that for me, it's this like deep sort of place in your, I guess in like your chest cavity, where some people would say your heart resides.
Yes.
And so like you're coming out there with this whole presence, this whole persona, this of who you are, not like some made up thing, but something that is essentially who you are. And it's that eternal struggle as a human being. Like, who am I? Who am I? We all yell late at night in our heads. So the clown, or at least for me, as this clown mentality, I go out there and it's like, I am Benjamin. I am human. I am going to share that through clown, and the conduit for that sharing is this essential feeling of love that we all have as human beings. And it's such a weird like thing to say, because then you're like, well, love, I mean, but I love my neighbor. I love my cat. I love eating tacos. I don't know. What is love? And you're like, well, yeah, I guess it does fall under this idea of what is love. Again, all these questions. Oh, we're so deep already. Okay.
Here's my question actually about this.
Okay.
Is how is that different from how anyone else walks on stage? Because everyone, presumably, allegedly, that we know of, who walks on stage is human.
Sure.
Right. But the addressing of humanity, I feel like is something, and the like fascination with showing that is so specific to clown.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Can we go down that path?
Let's go down that path. So I think, I don't know. Again, this is just all the stuff I think about sitting on the couch alone.
Yeah, that's why I'm interviewing you.
So it's like, what separates a clown from an aerialist or a juggler or whatever other discipline, even like a theater actor or a film actor? What separates that? And it is. I like this word conscious that you use. It's this conscious choice that a clown goes out and makes and says, hi, I am in the circus. I am on the stage. I am wherever. I am supposed to be perfect. I was hired to be perfect, whatever that means, to the producer, to the director, to the show. But the clown makes this conscious choice to say, I'm going to sit on this chair and I'm going to fail at sitting on this chair. It's something that is a conscious choice of, I am not perfect. You're not perfect. And it's okay to not be perfect. The trapeze, they have to be perfect or they're going to break their neck. The jugglers, they have to be perfect or you're going to think they suck at juggling because they dropped once. Oh, no. Kind of a thing. Oh, no, the actor forgot their line. Like, oh, they just broke my suspension of disbelief. Urgh, darn them. But the clown is saying it's okay. If that happens, it's okay. If in normal life you say something wrong to your partner and they get mad, that's okay. That's okay. You burned the food tonight? That's okay. We all do that. Like, let's instead of judgment and harshness of the failure that we a lot of us have been raised with, like, let's get rid of that for just at least this 10-minute clown bit. Let's put it on a pedestal and be like, ha, why are we doing this? Why? We don't have to.
So then, I'm going to get you. But actually, here's the question. Fell right into my trap. No, the question, I guess, from this is, if clown is the showing of imperfection, how then, or like if you walk on stage with this, how then do you, because you do this and it's beautiful, how do you then incorporate something that requires technical skill, like juggling? Like, how can you succeed and fail at the same time?
So just for example, so this idea of how can you fail and succeed, right? Just diving right in. Think about when you learn how to juggle. Can you juggle, Shannon?
I can.
So do you remember when you first learned how to juggle?
Oh my God, do I ever?
Do you remember how many times the ball dropped?
So many. The ball still drops. And
it still drops for me. And I'm hired to do it without dropping. So the idea is like the failure is so connected to the success.
This is why I think juggling maybe, aside from like big cats or like horses, juggling I think is one of the hardest circus disciplines. Because, and now I'm making all these exceptions, without being dangerous. But like on trapeze or, there are other things where you could like kind of flub and still get away with it.
Yeah.
But juggling, when you drop, there's such an objective like success and failure that when you drop, it doesn't matter how how proficient the audience is in watching juggling. They know that you dropped. Right.
And so then just like let's go on that thought process. Like so many thoughts. Okay, so the juggler's on stage. The juggler's pristine. The juggler's got their shiny bedazzled balls and you're juggling and it's like all of a sudden a ball has dropped. Now the audience looks at the ball and they're like, oh, that ball is on the ground. And then after they look at the ball on the ground, they look back to the juggler and they say, how does the juggler going to react to this? And I think in that split second, there's this whole like conversation that can happen between a juggler and an audience member. And like, for me, this is where the clown comes in because I can look at the audience and I can say, hi, I know I dropped this ball, but it's okay. I meant to do that. Or it's okay because check out how awesomely I can pick it up. There's another opportunity to do a trick that wasn't like specifically choreographed at this moment in time. But because I've trained, because I've practiced, because I know that this is a conversation we're having presently in this moment, in this space, I can do, let's say, a kick up with a club or something and recover the juggling. The juggling hasn't failed. I haven't failed. We haven't failed as a performer audience sharing a show together. But there's success in the failure of the drop because it's led to another opportunity to explore, I don't know, what we're capable of as human beings, or something like that. It's when you see it a lot in early juggling performances. Like a juggler drops, the audience looks at the drop, they look at the juggler, and the juggler is just like, oh darn it, I didn't want to drop there, and they like sheepishly or awkwardly pick up the ball and start trying to do the trick again, which is fine. It's a part of who we are. But if you just like embrace that, I remember seeing this Italian dance choreographer performance, and this person like hired jugglers to do the performance. So it was like it wasn't a circus, but it was dance from a dance perspective. And it was really cool because it was these 4 jugglers who juggled, it might have been 5. And they did things like one of them started doing a trick, and then the others would start doing that same trick. And then someone else would do like a trick, and the others would start kind of doing that trick. But I remember listening to like the talk back, and they talked about this idea of the drop. And so, because they were going to drop on stage, it was inevitable with how they choreographed it. But the choreographer said, when you drop on stage, look at your prop and don't react to it, but internalize how that drop makes you feel, and then pick up and start again. Like, it wasn't a performative moment, it wasn't a theatrical moment, but it was a personal, like, you dropped, you have to acknowledge that drop. And I've always thought about that since going forward. You have to acknowledge your failure on stage, because the audience has. And if you don't acknowledge it with them, they're going to feel cheated.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
Crazy.
Woo.
Does anybody have a piece? Like, is there any juggler who has like a very, very good piece that's all about like the punchline is the drop?
Oh,
that's surely been done. Right?
Yeah. So I know there's a bunch of pieces. I mean, I think Wes Puden has a little segment in one of his shows where if he fails, he has to like recover in a certain way. I remember listening to Jay Gilligan talk once, and he was like questioning the IJA's rules about dropping. And so he wrote a routine with a partner about like how many, and they just like dropped so many times. And like, and so like the drop counters were like, they didn't know what to count as drops and what not to count as drops, because what is a drop? And like, he talked about this idea is that a drop is anything you didn't intend to do. So like if you intend to not catch a ball, it's not a drop. Boom, boom, boom. Look at that. And then I think Tom Wall did a routine where he just like threw a bunch of balls on stage so that if he did drop, he could just pick up a ball wherever he was and just keep going.
When you started, did you start as a juggler, or did you start as a clown and then was like, I want a skill? Because I do know that with clowning, or something I understand from a lot of the San Francisco clowns, is that like clowning is kind of like the container, and the skill kind of sits inside the container.
Yeah, I've heard that. So for me, I started as a magician way back.
I love magicians.
Oh yeah. Well, for me, I do not like magicians, but I love magic so much.
This is such a good distinction. Thank you for that. It's very fair.
There are many magicians I do love, but after meeting a bunch of them, I was like, oh, okay.
Not my people.
It was actually why I got into juggling over magic. But that's besides the point. So I was a magician as like a kid all the way through high school up until early college, and then I met my juggling teacher, and he was just a friend at university, but he was a 7 club juggler, and I was like, oh man, that's what you can do with juggling. I need to learn how to do this. So then I was a juggler, and I went out of college. I was going to go to grad school, but I was like, no, I'm going to go be a performer. And so two friends of mine and I formed a Renaissance Festival troupe, and they gave us a stage our first year. And we were on stage. I was the juggler on stage. And then the other two, one was a stage combat person and the other was a comedian. And so juggler, sword fighter, and comedian. Pretty good trio, I'd say.
Amazing.
But people at the festival kept calling me a clown. I was like, no, I'm a juggler. I am absolutely a juggler. How dare you call me a clown? And then it kept happening. And then someone I really respected called me a clown. I was like, oh, that's weird. So I went into the whole research mode. Like, what is a clown? And it's then that I started reading on the history and some books on people's theories about what it is. And I got to the point to where there was one quote. I remember one little quote that said, every great clown is an even greater mime. And that was the quote that sort of was like, well, I was wrong about clown, what I thought about clowns. So I must be wrong about what a mime is. And that's sort of what spurred on learning about mime and learning all the different forms of mime. And
that's such an amazing segue, because I do want to get into this. What is mime? What is a corporeal mime?
Yeah.
What do people think of when they think of mime? Let's start there.
I don't know what they think of, but
yes, you do. Everyone knows what we think of when we think of a mime.
Well, the biggest reaction when I say I'm a mime is people do, they put the hands up and do the box,
yes,
which
exactly.
is fine. That's great. It's a cool illusion. Go Tony Montemaro. But the other place that they'll go is to the white face, like with Marcel Marceau, and think about him. But he was more of a clown whose skill was mime when it really comes down to it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'm totally on the like Western European track of mime, where we ended up, like, where that path ended up was in France, and so the French mime, and so corporeal mime is what I studied. So it's what I'm like most knowledgeable about.
And what does it look like to study corporeal mime? Like, take me through the day in a life of a bunch of people studying corporeal mime.
So for my classes, we would show up about 10 a.m. Our teacher, like, we'd be there warming ourselves up individually. Our teacher would walk in and she'd say, okay, everyone lay down. And we would do our stretches, very much like a dance class. And we'd do stretches that she led us through. And then she'd have us stand up and we'd start going through figures and forms of mime. And go through the different counterweights, and then we talk about specific techniques and how to better get into those. And then we take a break for lunch, and she'd disappear. And then after lunch, both teachers would come back, and we'd be led through sort of the repertoire of corporeal mime, and we'd start learning pieces of mime and modern mime and a little bit of postmodern mime too.
Do you mean like you would learn pieces like how someone would learn a ballet?
Yes. So
like there's choreographies?
Yeah. So corporeal mime really started back in this like revolutionary French school out in the countryside. This guy, Jacques Copeau, started, I think it was him, in this school that he like got a bunch of theater people together and was like, hey, theater is really kind of like, it's reached this point of commercialism here in France, and like the national theater is putting a lot of restrictions and it's so rigid. Like, let's go back to what theater originally used to be. And they like looked at Greek theater, they looked at Indian theater, they looked at Chinese theater, all this stuff. And they're like, what's going on here? Like, what are we missing from our theater today? Like, we're theater is so voyeuristic right now that you're just an audience member watching people on stage. But what did it used to be? And so you look at like Indian theater, which was form, and you looked at Chinese theater, which had masks and specific ideas with everything. And like the Grecian theater, about the story, about the epics and the history. And so like they were studying all those things. And there was one class on mime there where they put on a mask and they studied how the body like moved in relation to that mask. And there's a student who wasn't in the advanced class because he was too old, and started too late. But he watched that class and saw like the kernels of the mime that became like corporeal mime. And so when he left that school, he started really focusing and studying and developing this form of mime where it wasn't just your face and your hands. What we think of as mime is actually like pantomime. But the idea of mime being the whole body, the total body, an art form separate from theater, separate from dance, and was something that could stand on its own. And so he was trying to figure out what that meant.
Wow.
I think, I mean, this is all how I understand it right now. I'm sure I'm flubbing up.
This is a great story. I love it. Sometimes I wish when I'm like listening to these that I had like a cartoon alongside to like, because in my head I'm like watching little stick figure French people like reject Moliere and like go into the woods and
yeah.
Sounds about right. Mime.
Sounds about right.
Nice. The thing about the mime, or what it sounds like, is that you have such control over the body.
Exactly. So this guy, Etienne Decroux, who's sort of like the father of modern mime. I don't know. I hate that title. But
I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he's so here for it.
Oh, yeah. He was pretty draconian when it came down to it. But
sure. Yeah.
But he, for him, it was like, like we have these instruments, like an actor steps on stage. And what does an actor have? Like, they have their body, like apart from their voice. So the whole idea is an actor, sometimes heard, always seen. So with that in mind, you step on stage and the audience instantly sees you. And with that in mind, like the instrument that an actor should be proficient at isn't so much the voice as much as the body. That was like his thinking. And thus, like the home of like the theater, which has people who are dancing, people who are singing, people who are talking, whatever. There's so many different people, but the theater, like for him, actually belonged to the actors. That was the home for the actor. So we don't need lights. We don't need sound. We don't need fancy dance steps. We just need the actor. And if there's an art form for the actor, then the theater should be built on that. That was his whole thinking. And so throughout the development of learning how to use your body, this idea of corporeal mime came out. And that's kind of what I picked up on. It's like, I want to learn how to use my body. It's my body. It's my giant meat casing. I should know how to use it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so interested to think about, like, when you're talking about the actor and that always seen coming on stage. Yes. It reminds me of Peter Brook, who says, like, all that needs to happen for a piece of theater to exist is for an actor to walk in front of on a stage in front of a person.
Yes.
That's an act of theater.
Exactly.
But I'm thinking about that in terms of circus.
Oh, sure.
Like, where does theater end and circus begin? Especially when we're talking about the clown mime juggler.
Mm-hmm. For real?
Yeah. That was the question.
Oh, okay. Man. So I'm so interested in this intersection of circus and theater.
Right.
I'm so interested in the separation. We have, like, Tom and I are actually talking about, like, when did that distinction happen? Because so many people have in history distinguished theater from circus. And
I do believe that they're different.
Yeah.
I think that they have different, personally.
Okay.
After I ask the question, I'm going to answer it myself. No, but I think that they have different purposes. Mm-hmm. I think they have different aesthetics. And I think they have, there's a different mindset within.
What's that mindset?
I guess it goes along with the purpose. I think that the purpose of circus, first and foremost, is to entertain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about theater? What's the purpose of theater?
I think that the purpose of theater is, it's not necessary, it's to send a message, but it doesn't necessarily, and like often that the achievement of that message is through entertainment.
For the theater.
Yes, but I think for circus, it's the opposite. I think that the first and foremost goal is to be entertaining.
Okay.
And if you get a message in along with that, that's great.
Okay.
I think that also goes along with a recognition of like a fourth wall, right? Like in circus, I think in true circus, like the fourth wall does not exist. There's an acknowledgement that you're doing this for an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in theater, along with this message, we are, and obviously like these, as we're saying, like twist and turned and people are challenging this. But I think if we're like distilling it, in my opinion, in these like pure, I really like Dominique Jandot, who says like a circus happens in the round. Mm-hmm. Like a pure, like if we're really talking about like a circus, like it happens in a tent or it happens in something where like the audience is all around you. Mm-hmm. Whereas a piece of theater happens on a proscenium where like the audience is in front and they're looking at a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that there are aesthetic and purposeful, or like differences in purpose and aesthetic in circus and theater.
I love these hot takes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm all about the hot takes.
So like, I really appreciate those distinctions, because I feel that this idea of the proscenium theater has just like solidified itself in our minds so much, that we can tie this into this idea with like the old theater school, the French theater school in the countryside, right? They also thought of theater like, why is it just a proscenium? And you go back to Greece, you go back to India, you go back to China, and it was in the round, or more likely a thrust. The stage was thrust into the audience.
Right.
And here in Minneapolis, we have a beautiful theater called the Guthrie that was founded on that whole idea of like, forget the proscenium, we're thrusting ourselves back into the audience. Even though now it's sort of the like regional corporate theater that a lot of people are like, big box theater. It's founded on this idea of theater is also in the round, is also in the audience. And you get much more productive conversations happening, and you are able to connect with your audience in a different way. Because even on a circus, the beauty of a circus stage is you're an audience member at 6 o'clock, you're an audience member at 9 o'clock, and you're an audience member at 12 o'clock. You look across the stage and you see each other having the same reactions. What a communal experience to have. And it's the same, it should be the same with the theater a little bit, for me at least. We're all here experiencing this piece of theater together. Like, I mean, Shakespeare's Globe Theater is a thrust theater. The old amphitheater in Greece is a thrust theater. In Japan, with no theater, there's a whole section of the stage that walks out into the audience for the actors to perform on. So like, that's why I bring the mime from this idea of the mime actor into the circus. So for me, okay, I'm trying to bring a full circle. In the round.
We'll get there.
Is the idea that
circle in the round.
For the actor and for the mime, the whole art form. Oh,
that's my cat. My editor will cut that out later.
Okay.
Don't even worry about it.
The whole art.
I am listening.
Okay.
It's just better to throw the ball and let the cat fetch it than to. It's the path of least resistance is what's happening right now.
That's the way to do it. So the art of the actor, let's just say, like, we're going to solidify that for the conversation at hand.
Great.
Is the art of the actor is mime. To bring mime into the circus is about how to be the most visible on stage.
Yes.
So by doing corporeal mime, I'm doing the actions here. Like, if you could see it, it would make sense. If you do, to stand a certain way on stage is to project your energy in a certain way, not to bring energy into this, but to like put your stage presence out there in a certain way to where no matter what side of the audience you're on, you're going to see this mime body in their position, moving in their way, which brings this like this visibility where you are, okay, it's like how to say, it's like you're boiling down your sauce. You're reducing your sauce to the most essential tastes so that you can pour it over your meal and get the full flavor. It's the same, like the way we move as human beings is full of so many like unnecessary things that it takes away from what we're trying to say.
Yeah. So in the sense a mime is trying to reduce all that and be very clear.
Yeah, that's there you go. Thanks. You just vocal mimed my whole thing.
Vocal mime. That is.
I mean,
you're a corporeal mime. I'm a vocal mime.
I love it. I love it. But okay, disclaimer though, that's all very like heady, very pretentious sounding. That's just how I like to think about it and put myself on stage that way.
But I think it's brilliant because I think of this even in terms of other acrobats. Mm-hmm. We're like learning to be, and this is another way that I think circus is different than theater.
Okay.
Is that as an actor, you're always on stage, but you're playing a character. Mm-hmm. And that character does different things to tell the story, to send the message, whatever the context of the piece of theater is. But I think in circus, even people who are not clowns or mimes, there is a way that they present on stage. Mm-hmm. And no matter if you're a trapeze artist, if you're a Russian bar, to ask for the bow, ask for the clap, to like punctuate the trick, there's also an art form in that.
For certain.
And I'm wondering how much like mime studies that, or what the overlap looks like in those times.
Oh, so okay. I can't say mime studies it at all because mime is. I'm going to speak from just what I've read. Mime concerns itself with mime, and that's kind of it. But so what I've perceived, this is how I've seen things, is every sort of discipline has a lineage of like, this is how you should do it. And that's not necessarily how it should be done, if that makes sense. So like I was reading Philippe Petit's book on the tightrope, and he was talking about like this idea of you take, once you are kneeling, like you've got your balance bar, you kneel, and then what you do is you take your arm, you put it at a 90-degree angle, you do a circle with your hand, and you like gather up the energy with your fist, and then you open your hand to the sky and you release the energy. And that's your pose. That's your accent at the end. Like, I've done my trick. And now you applaud.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so like, there's a little like written down rule. I mean, it's not the rule, of course, but it's a rule about movement, very specific movement.
Yes.
You look at gymnasts, at least I do when watching the Olympics, and they all have to like land a certain way, right? I'm not an acrobat, but I don't know why they slap their thighs and put their arms up.
I mean, acrobats and gymnasts are different, but I think in gymnastics, it's to like show that you're finishing the trick.
Sure.
For judging reasons.
Yeah. So, okay.
But yes, that translates to acrobatics and that like to signal to the audience to clap. And I think there are some, God, I'm thinking about this Russian hand balancer who's like just incredible at asking for the clap.
Sure.
Which sounds kind of dirty, but.
Nice.
Yes.
But I'm thinking like, why do we ask for the clap? In a circus performance. The title of this
episode, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Asking for the clap with Benjamin Domask-Ruh. Okay. But like this whole idea of I've been trying to think about circus and theater. You don't ask for applause in the theater. It just comes.
Exactly.
You don't ask for applause in a dance performance. It just happens. Even at a music performance, like during a jazz solo, let's say, if your solo wasn't up to par, the audience is going to be like, oh, okay, I guess, well, you did do a solo, but it wasn't like the trumpet solo that blew our minds. So, so why do we ask for applause in a circus?
I think my answer to that is we ask for applause because the purpose of circus is to entertain.
Yes.
Right? So, like going back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is one avenue. I mean, I've been thinking about the idea of should story be in Circus? And I have written down in like one of my numerous notes, what's the difference between Once Upon a Time and Watch This? Like, I'm trying to see that. But then I was listening to your interview with Gypsy Snyder, and she said this beautiful comment. I have it written down here. It says, Circus abstracts the story. And I've been thinking about that for like the last 2 months or however since I listened to it, of like, what does that mean that Circus abstracts the story? Because you're right, Circus is entertaining. And a lot of people come to the circus to be entertained, especially here in the States. But then I've been watching so many other countries with their circus performances where there's not a clear story and there's not a clear message, but it's clear that they're not trying to entertain me.
Hot take.
Okay.
I think that they've failed at art.
Oh, you think, whoa, how do you fail at art?
Oh, let me backtrack. I don't think that they've failed at art, but I think that they are not making a piece of circus at that point. Maybe they're making performance art.
Oh.
Like, I'll give them that.
Okay.
It's performance art because they're in front of a audience. So Peter Brook would call it theater, but I would call it performance art. I would not call it circus because their intention is not to entertain.
Okay. Okay. So for you, the definition of circus is purely to entertain.
Not purely, but that's the main purpose.
The main purpose is to enter. Okay. All right. I'm loving this. I'm loving getting
We're
this.
there for an audience. And what I see, and I see this a lot in Montreal too, is the rejection of that. Mm-hmm. You know, like all of these incredibly skilled acrobats who go through E&C. And I mean, my take on it is like they get to the end of it and they're like, oh my God, I'm so burned out. I fucking hate circus. I love circus because I've dedicated my life to it, all this, but I also hate it right now.
Okay.
And I just want to be on stage and kind of like show my suffering or show something other than like the entertain.
Okay.
And so they create a piece, show my suffering. Or it's also, you know, like they want to express something else about life other than joy or entertainment. And so the way by which they do that is a performance art piece or some kind of movement, dance, you know.
Sure.
I get it. Puppy only wants to be entertained. And I think that at that point, when they make that choice, they are no longer choosing to do circus.
Oh, so you
fucking take right there.
Do you think that's a conscious choice?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But I think that that's like the beauty, going back to you, of the clown.
Oh, yeah.
Is that like, you don't necessarily have to be entertaining by always doing the big trick, right? There's also entertainment in comedy and failing to do the big trick or getting people to love you or showing your love for people on stage. And
so in that action of failing and showing love and success, is that purely entertainment then?
Not necessarily purely.
Sure, I'm using that word a lot.
Is there for the people. I think all circus artists are there for the audience.
Okay.
Whereas not every actor on stage is there. In some schools of thought, I would say almost by definition, the actor is there and needs to focus, needs to ignore that the audience even exists. You know, like I think of like a Stella Adler, you know, where you actually literally like do visual exercises where you build a fourth wall instead of the audience and like picture that there is a picture frame here and a mirror here and a chifforobe. I don't know, you know, old Stella Adler shit.
Right.
Whereas in circus, like, no, there's an audience there and you're there for them.
Sure. So I would ask then, because when I teach my theater students about theater, I instantly direct them through questioning to this idea of the fourth wall. And they all talk about it and they're very proud because they've learned about their fourth wall from their beginning acting class, right?
Yes, good for them.
And then I say, but what if the audience is laughing at something that your character says as an actor? Do you just keep delivering the lines or do you have to wait for that laughter to start to die down before you deliver the next line? because you can't deliver a line that the audience doesn't hear. Every word the playwright has written is important. So if they don't hear that word, they may be missing out on something important. So as an actor, you have to be aware of the audience and their laughter, of the tension in the room when the actor character has delivered the "I don't love you anymore, Jim." And if you just keep going, you'll miss that emotional build in the audience where they're going, "What do you mean you don't love Jim? You've only devoted your life to Jim. But come on, Henry, like you've loved Jim your whole life. How can you not love him now?" Like if you just steamroll through that monologue without listening to the tension being built, like then I think you're also failing as an actor.
Yeah, because you're not sending the message.
Right. So like I understand your like the idea of like the fourth wall doesn't exist in circus and it doesn't exist in theater. But I also think the opposite is true. It doesn't exist in theater, but it does exist in circus. Because for me, I'm getting passionate. For me, when I'm juggling, like, and I'm doing hard tricks, if I'm focused too much on the audience, so I'm always like playing with my levels, my clown level and my juggler level. If my clown level is too high and I'm focused on the audience, I'm gonna fail at my harder technical juggling tricks, like doing some 5-ball combination or something. If I'm too focused on the audience, I'm going to miss out. So I have to lower my clown awareness and heighten my juggler awareness, which I guess I could say is putting up my fourth wall to the audience.
But I don't think that's putting up a fourth wall.
No?
I think that that's just focusing on the trick at hand.
Oh.
Maybe you conceive of it, because a fourth wall is a concept.
Sure.
In theater that, like, doesn't exist in circus.
Not at all.
No. To me, like, yes, it's been like theater has influenced circus, and so some people have a fourth wall and like talk about it that way. But I think that's like, again, this is all like my opinion. Bro.
Yeah.
But I think that's weird.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that like shuts off because I think that, again, like if the purpose of theater is to send a message, if the audience is laughing, you have to wait for the laughter to die down to continue to tell the story, to continue to send the message.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you're on stage as a circus artist and there's laughter, the reason that you wait for the laughter to die down is to continue to entertain.
You don't think it's to deliver the message?
But the message is entertaining. Whereas, like, in theater, the message could be something that, like, I mean, like in Greece, the reason that they made theater was to be like, yo, we shouldn't be fighting these wars anymore. Yo, like, the gods are angry. You know, like, there were big things they were talking about. And in circus, we can talk about these big things, I guess, but mostly you're there to have a good time. There's a different kind of catharsis that's happening.
Okay. So what if
this interview has taken like, this is very odd, but I'm very much enjoying it.
Oh yeah, it's super cool. So one of my like my thought projects is to figure out what it is about circus that makes it distinct from theater. And so I'm really curious about the idea of story, how it plays into circus, how it plays into theater, and the idea of entertainment. Which I don't know if those are two opposites. I don't know if the opposite of story is entertainment. I don't think. No,
I don't think they're opposite, but I think they're different purposes.
Okay, so we're going down the art and intent hole. Okay. I have a question. A very important question.
Now I'm being interviewed.
So actors put up a fourth wall. Would if there was a fourth wall in circus, would the Flying Trapeze Act put up a fourth floor? Comedy gold. Yeah, fourth net. Yep, that's the way to do it.
Depends on how big the rig is, I guess.
Oh boy. I'm really basing the assumption that circus is purpose. Circus's purpose is entertainment.
Well, I know. I think the way we define, the way to define an art form, like circus, is through its intent. What does it do for society? And where does it happen for society?
Okay. So to bring this back around for like my clown juggler mime.
Yeah. Thank you.
For me, my intent when I say I do circus, like that's something I say to people is I do circus. My intent, the routines are built around, is it entertaining, but only enough to like keep attention of the audience member, because I do have messages in my routines.
Yeah, sure.
And so like the message might be to like, it's okay to fail. Or the message might be like, balance is tricky. Like it's hard to find balance. And as you mature, the balance gets riskier. Or there might be a thing of like, I can juggle on my own and it's impressive, but it's more fun when we do it together. Like, and I bring someone into the routine. Or even something as simple as I like bubbles. And that's my message. And to share that love of bubbles with an audience member.
Totally.
And so like and when I make theater pieces, it is also with a goal to entertain, because the message, I think you're sending the message on a more secure like vessel.
What is that vessel?
The entertainment.
In theater, you're sending the message on a more secure vessel than circus?
No,
and that vessel is entertainment?
No, then like can our Montreal students who are suffering still be entertaining through their suffering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could, but they choose not to be. Well, no, but they not that they should. Like I do think that they're consciously being like, I don't want to do this. Like, and I'm not saying that as like a read. I'm not saying that to be shady, but like, I don't think that they sit there and think about the audience experience, and I don't think they're like, I want these people to have a good time. I don't want these people to feel impressed. I don't want these people. I don't care what they feel. This is about my experience.
Oh.
And so that means that it's not circus.
So what I'm hearing is that entertainment takes into account the audience experience.
Yes.
So art, I think, is the opposite of entertainment for some people.
Yeah, I disagree with that. But
what? You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think entertaining in and of itself is an art. I also think that surgeons are artists. So
for certain.
I have like a whole different thought process behind this. And I also think that different people are allowed their own definitions of these things. This is just, I do think that if you say that circus is everything or theater is everything, then it's nothing. And I think that I, for myself, as a performer, and as a creator, have definitely had to become very specific about like what my purposes are, what I like, what my taste is, what I want to make. And from that and my like general knowledge and experience from studying theater and studying circus and all of this. And from that have derived my own definitions of these things. I'm not saying that like every single person needs to believe that circus's purpose is for entertaining and circus should be done in the round.
Sure.
However, like I think that in its purest, most distilled form, circus must primarily, and like secondary things like a message about loving bubbles is awesome and like needs to be there also. But the primary thing is like, is this entertaining? Whereas David Mamet would never maybe he would. Like you do have to have some showmanship and some craft in the theater, but the craft is not necessarily to make the audience, be entertained in the same way. That's all.
That's all. Yeah. I think. Okay. Cool. Great. Personal definitions of circus are what we're going for as a circus community.
Yeah.
And we all band under this like title Circus, capital C Circus. Yeah, that's a piece of the puzzle, is that Circus is entertaining.
I think so, because I think that it's not just, we can't just look at it from the perspective of a circus community. We have to look at it from this perspective, oh, this is a nice full circle, like zooming out, right? We also have to look at it from the perspective of a human being functioning in a society.
For real.
And
Yeah.
what does the society need, and what is our role in the society?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
As
and
circus performers or as...
And as a theater maker, I think your role in society is different than that of a circus performer.
Yes, and that is something I'm desperately seeking out. What are those differences? Yes, that is something I think about. It's one of our roles in society as story. Okay, here's my hot take. As storytellers, theater artists, and story makers, circus artists.
Yeah, I don't know. I have the belief. I don't know if I agree with your hot take. I'm sorry. Because I think that human beings make story out of anything. Like, I think that that's part of our, like, evolutionary wiring, is to, like, put story on things. You know? And that's what's so neat about, like, this quote that you're saying from Gypsy is, like, circus is story abstracted, right? Like, story can exist. I think that story is made and told in both circus and in theater, because audience will always create story.
Well, yeah, and what I'm feeling, or at least something I'm working from, my basis right now is we go to a theater to hear a story, but we come away from a circus telling a story. Does that make sense?
Wait, we go to the theater to hear a story.
Yes.
And we come away from the circus telling the story.
With a story to tell.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Phew. That's
also, like, you don't need my approval.
No, but this is just a working theory I'm playing with in my head as I
think that's so cool.
I put my director hat on and I've been hired to direct a theater show. I'm going to think about the story I'm telling. So I got to direct Sarah Rule's Melancholy play last.
Oh, so good!
Such a good play, and I got to do it with a bunch of high schoolers, and they were so on board, and they loved it.
Yes.
But then I'm hired to direct a circus piece, and I have to think like, well, we don't have a story to tell. We're gonna make a story for other people to tell. At least that's how I am approaching it at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I did switch my hat direction while I said that, so you can have the visual. Yeah.
So when you're a director and you're directing a theater piece versus a circus piece, you're not wearing a different hat. You're wearing the same hat, but it's just like the brim is kind of sideways or backwards.
Exactly.
Got it. Oh, wow. So many insights here today, Benjamin.
Oh my goodness. Yes, we've gone deep. It is so great. I've thrown out all the notes I had written down for today. It's so good.
Oh, incredible. Is there anything, we're kind of coming to the end of this, like, this was not an interview. This was just me, like, telling you my opinion.
Well, there had to be a Shannon episode at some point.
I guess so. I'm just so sorry that you had to be the one to do it. But, I do, because you took the time twice, actually. What are on your notes? Anything that, like, we didn't hit today that you cannot walk away from this interview without sharing with the people?
No. If we need to, we can have a part 2 someday. If people are like, well, I really want to know more, which I doubt will happen.
People always want to know more.
But, like, no, I don't know. Nah, I'm fine. I got it. There's so many people to talk about and so many ideas to talk about. We can't do it all right now.
Or ever. You got to pick.
Yeah.
That's life. Where can people find you online? If they want direction, if they want to learn to clown, mime, juggle, find their heart chakra and open it for business.
Ooh, yeah.
Where are you?
I'm BenjaminDomask.com. I'm on Facebook. Send me a friend request. You can find my email on either one of those. Always send me a message. I'm happy to talk, happy to give thoughts and advice and things. That's cool.
Nice.
I like people.
Yeah, people are cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Benjamin.
That's it? We're done?
I think so. Oh, wait, no, of course we're not done. I have to ask you a question.
I thought so.
Thank you so much. Oh, man. Which I will, I guess, interrupt too, because that seems to be the No, I won't. What advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Oh, man, I've been thinking about this.
I knew it.
In fact, at the beginning of my career, I wish I could go back. The beginning of my career was as a kid, right? So little 4-year-old Benjamin.
Oh.
He's trying to copy the same magic trick his brother just did for him and ended up getting sent to the emergency room because he got a piece of clay stuck in his ear for 3 months. Don't put that. No, the advice I would say is do what you want to do. There's so many opinions, so many people telling you how and what to do. You should listen and you should learn what those things are, and then take that those external ideas and go internal and say, what do you want to do? Do you want to spin that plate? Do you want to throw that ball? Do you want to do a quadruple backflip? What do you want to do? And work towards that. Do you want to entertain or do you want to tell a story? What is it? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Dope. Yeah, we did it.
Oh my God.
That was my interview with Benjamin Domask-Ruh, and I am using the term interview very loosely in this situation because, as you can hear, I must have had too much coffee that day or something, man, because I really got heated and gave a lot of my own opinions about what I think circus is, what I think theater is, what I think they are and are not. But what I loved, first of all, shout out to Benjamin for being so patient and asking such good questions to me as we kind of grappled with this question and continue to grapple with this question. And sometimes when I ask these kinds of questions, I'm met with a lot of resistance from people online or in real life where they're like, what does it matter? Why are we always trying to define these things? Who cares if it's circus or theater? Just watch it, enjoy it, make it. And I think that's a legitimate place to come from. I, again, think that everybody has a right to their opinion. However, I would say that to really engage as an artist, you have to start asking these big questions because that helps you know the kind of work you want to make. And Benjamin even started this interview talking about how he was in this, super hipster coffee shop drinking his black coffee and writing down, who he is as a juggler, who he is as a clown, who he is as a corporeal mime, and how those things fit together to create what he wanted to make and what he wanted to say as an artist. And I think sometimes we can be very simple about our artistic endeavors. I'm an aerialist. Boom, period. Put a stamp on it, send it out. I hope that whoever receives it loves it. But I think the more specific you can be with who you are and what you want to make, with what the art form is you're engaging with means to you, the easier it will be to create the kinds of things you want to do. It's just like goal setting in real life, right? If you want to move somewhere, first of all, you have to know where you want to move. You have to know where that is on the map. You have to know all these things about it before you can go there. And I think that's also true with our own definitions of art, of circus, of theater, and in life. So, to learn more about the lovely Benjamin Domask-Ruh, he is on Instagram as Domask-Bz, Domaskbz. You can also Google him, and there's a ton of information from all sorts of very reputable companies where he has directed. For aerial training tips and inspiration, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at _artist_athlete. I'm on Facebook, The Artist Athlete. My website is theartistathlete.com. And if you loved what you just heard, or kind of liked it, or hated it but couldn't stop listening, Go to patreon.com/theartistathlete and sign up to become a Patreon. There's lots of cool stuff on there. Thanks for listening, friends, fans, and foes. We are nearing episode 100. I need maybe a week or two to prepare the amazing guest that we have coming up, but stay tuned for that. Subscribe wherever you're listening to, and give me a shout out. Talk at you later. The Artist Athlete Podcast is supported solely by donations from people like you. Here's what some of those people have to say.
Hi, I'm Freya. You can hear my whole story in episode 50 of the Artist Athlete Podcast, but I'm here to tell you about something else that I do. I'm a qualified health and nutrition coach. I help people with sleep and body confidence, among other things. You can see everything I have to offer at wildguidance.com or follow me on Instagram at wildguidance.
Hi everyone, I'm Dominique, a ground acrobat, trapeze artist, and coach, currently bringing Circus to the extremely cold but very beautiful Northern Ontario, Canada. Circus has changed my life and I'm so grateful to everyone in this community. Find me on Instagram at DomUpsideDown or my website, domupsidedown.com.
Hi everyone, this is Allie Cooper, owner and coach at the Radical Movement Factory in Santa Cruz, California. I love supporting the Artist Athlete Podcast and the amazing community Shannon has created here. I teach rope and fabric and have a circus conditioning app available on iTunes called Cirque Plus. You can follow me on Instagram at AllieCooper_, and if you find yourself in California, come say hi.
Hi, I'm Leah. I hate conditioning. So I created the ABCs of Fitness, a fun, full program of active flexibility, body weight, and cardio with personal daily check-ins to motivate you wherever you are and whatever discipline you do. Join our next 19-day check-in challenge and slide into my DMs on Instagram at ABCs of Fitness.
Aloha! My name is Beth Russell, and I live on the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. I am an aerial artist and movement instructor specializing in chakra yoga to keep me balanced and grounded. I play with silks, trapeze, lyra, rope, acro, aerial yoga and dance, slacklining, pole, bungee, and climbing. Really anything that goes up and allows me to explore 3D space. You can find my dedicated aerial page on Instagram at Maui Aerialist. If you find yourself coming to Maui, let's play.
Hey there, friends, fans, and enemies. This is Chris Alston, Patreon of the Artist Athlete Podcast, straps artist and lyra performer and acrobat out of Greenville, South Carolina. So if you're ever passing through, make sure to stop in and see me and my friends. We have a wonderful space, and we'd love to see you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lee. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm an aerialist. I teach performing arts to elementary school during the day and do pole and sling and rope by night. I really, really like the Artist Athlete Podcast because it gives me a lot of circus goals to look forward to. It gives me a lot of insight on what's going on around the world in circus, and that's why I'm Patreon.
Hello all. Thank you for tuning in to the Artist Athlete Podcast. I am Opal Schwartz from Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're ever in the cities, feel free to stop by the Aviary Minneapolis. It's a great time. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and goodbye.
Hey there, artists and athletes. This is Andy Smith, owner and artistic director at Saltaire Circus School in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. And I want to thank you for contributing to the Artist Athlete Podcast. If you ever find yourself down in Florida, come check us out. Whether you're an artist, athlete, or someone ordinary just looking to be extraordinary, we got a place for you.